Disclaimer, I do not dislike CinemaSins, and that is not a lie. For my next Everything Wrong with CinemaSins video, I'm going to be seeing their video on Luca. Enjoy, everyone.
These 45 seconds of opening Lucogos are set to some old-school Italian music, as if that will make them more tolerable. But I can't understand a word they're singing. And when I turned on subtitles, they weren't subtitled in Italian or English. In other words, loggy.
Jeremy starts off another video by singing the logos cliche.
Stealing. Also, how is this creature even targeting the exact right spot for these things? If he's this able to quickly snag things without being seen, wouldn't you think his collection's
Says that Alberto does this without being seen, while not showing that he gets seen right after this.
Fish out of the barn! Fish out of the barn!
Why did Luca have to look inside this so-called barn to confirm what is so clearly f***ing apparent? Was he hoping that an identical flock just so happened to be swimming by while his were still safely tucked away? Also, of course they escaped. This barn has no door. Are we supposed to be rooting for this asshole?
Well, like I've said before, just because a character is the protagonist doesn't mean you have to root for them or like them. Though I will say that Luca is just a kid, and kids mess up every now and then. I still root for him regardless of this.
Wait!
Look, I'll accept a race of merpeople that speak fluent English under the water. Wait, would that be fluid English? Sorry, got pun-stracted. Anyhow, I'll accept a race of merpeople that speak fluent English under the water, but I will never accept an actual fish that bleats like a sheep. The line must be drawn here!
Which is ironic since you've drawn the line at tons of unrealistic things, but you never suspend your disbelief, which I think is the better option.
And also a race of merpeople that speak fluent English under the water.
And here we have a contradiction to the previous sin. So are you fine with these sea monsters being able to speak English underwater or not? Definitely can't be both, Jer.
Didn't these fish just swim away again? If they were content hanging out by the barn, why did they swim away in the first place?
It's almost like the fish Giuseppe tries to do that not too long after this, but you didn't show that.
Giuseppe? What did we just talk about? Ah, Giuseppe. Alright, let's... You wanna run off like your buddy Enrico? He's either dead or he's out there somewhere, seeing the world.
Geez, Disney, we're doing both Finding Nemo and The Little Mermaid here? Do you know how to tell any aquatic stories that aren't about wanting to explore beyond your home?
But regardless, even if a story's a bit unoriginal, its execution can make it work, and to me it did for this movie because I think it's amazing.
They're here to do murder.
Learning all the wrong lessons from the plot of The Village. Actually, trying to learn anything from The Village.
To quote Jay Exci, this movie, that movie.
I was just wondering, where do boats come from?
Setting aside the fact that an underwater spit take should result in bubbles, not water, why are they treating this like a question he would be shocked or embarrassed by? Is it the boat sex? Do they have a lot of boat sex in this universe?
I agree with the first part of your sin, but for the second part, Lorenzo reacted like that because they aren't supposed to discuss the surface. Also, boats are made of materials like wood, so your boat sex question doesn't matter, especially because animated family films don't bring up sex. And in addition, Luca is just a kid, so he wouldn't even know about sex, and so I'll give out my award here.
Let's get back to work.
Ah, so this is one of those expositional lunches where no one actually eats anything, but it still feels like you had a ton of crap shoved down your throat.
Yeah, so?
It's fine. I'm not human.
I just wear this diver suit around when I know I'm in a movie and need to provide some false tension.
And to show us that Alberto collects human objects, as well as the fact that as this suit is a Chekhov's gun, we should be learning about it now.
Terrence Malick's Luca.
Jeremy says something random cliche.
Luca immediately turns back into a merson at the moment he hits the water, and earlier took about a second to completely dry off and turn human when he first came out. I just mention it because I'm sure the rest of the movie will be super consistent with these rules they've established.
Well, I can believe that because it's easy to get wet right away, but it takes a little bit for you to be completely dry.
This is, Smooka. Yeah, he's in charge now.
This crudely drawn rock will, of course, work on these sheep bass. But why does Luca really expect it to fool his parents? I mean, it does, because his parents are as stupid as the plot needs them to be, but Luca doesn't know that.
Sure, it does work at first, but you're forgetting that Danielle and Lorenzo do eventually find out about him going to the surface later on.
Wow. That was hard to watch.
My daily recitation after finishing a sin script somehow makes it into this script.
Jeremy says something random again.
Walking is just like swimming, but without fins, or a tail. And also there's no water.
Saying something new is exactly like something old, and then listing a bunch of caveats disproving that claim is a clever, funny, and effective literary device. Except it's not clever, or funny, and it's not effective. See?
Well, like I've said before, that's only your opinion, so I'll be giving this my award as well.
The sky, clouds, the sun.
All also visible from underwater, honestly, Alberto. You might as well give up with trying to convince me there are things on land you can't do underwater. I've seen SpongeBob!
Which is ironic coming from the guy who previously questioned the logic of SpongeBob despite admitting that it's SpongeBob.
You just sit on it, and it takes you anywhere you want to go.
Line I used to pick up my college girlfriend somehow ends up in this Pixar movie.
Jeremy makes an inappropriate comment cliche.
Delayed gravity.
You mean in a world where sea monsters can talk and look like humans on the surface?
Gotta ride together. If you don't sit on the back and hold on to the front, the whole thing falls apart.
How's that supposed to be any more effective than a single occupant sitting on the back and holding on to the front?
As shown in the movie, when Luca and Alberto ride down, their Vespa falls apart, but Luca pulls it back together with his feet to keep it together.
You got a Bruno in your head. Alberto, you can't. Alberto, you're gonna die. Alberto, don't put that in your mouth.
Hey, I'm Bruno.
Don't listen to stupid Bruno.
Well, you too, kid.
This isn't a sin. You're just speaking to Alberto here as if he can hear you, which would make this another instance of you yelling at the screen like the Birdman says.
Flying Vespas, skyfish, lava water, high as
Pointing things out on the screen.
Also letting your Pixar movie feel anything like the Cars universe.
Well, everyone's got different tastes, so just because you don't like the Cars movies doesn't mean that everybody dislikes them.
The overprotective mother that is hyper-paranoid about the deadly land monsters was apparently content to wait until Luca had been missing for almost an entire night, rather than stopping him as soon as she saw him sneaking off.
I agree with your point here, but I feel like this should have made you realize you should have revised that earlier sin about his parents finding out.
Sending me to the deep.
But instead of sending you immediately, they're going to allow you just enough time and wiggle room to escape, so that we still have a movie.
Yeah, otherwise we wouldn't have a movie, Jer.
This is either a maddening ripoff or a brilliant parody. It's remarkable how often those two things coincide.
So which is it, Jeremy?
You and your cartoon physics. This unsecured radio wouldn't have made it past the first cobble on this street.
And here we have another case of Jeremy taking a fantasy film seriously.
Just a little bit.
Attempting to drown a child in broad daylight. We get it. He's an asshole.
Well, yeah, Ercole is the villain of this movie, and you're singing the villain for behaving like a villain, as if that isn't already the point.
He learns to ride a bike faster than he learns how to walk. Who knows how quickly he will master other things, like skateboarding, or rocket science, or baiting.
But those things aren't important to the story being told here, so does that really matter?
Re-chopping the head off a fish. Why repeat work you've already done? It's so inefficient.
Wait, what happened to your subtitles? Use the white ones for when you speak, and use the yellow ones for when the characters speak.
This room contains a veritable orgy of evidence that this is a 100% nope zone for our Pisces protagonist here.
Yeah, because Massimo is a fisherman and hunts sea monsters. Also pointing things out on the screen.
I'm afraid your friends still need to pay the out-of-town weirdo tax.
Geez, Pixar, I think you could have maybe gone a bit lighter on the villainy. I've never seen someone with such a weak mustache twirl it this hard.
But Pixar has created villains I'd say are darker than Ercole, such as Lotso, Syndrome, Ernesto de la Cruz, and Randall. Also, Ercole was referring to both Luca and Alberto, so you didn't need to put an apostrophe in friends here.
Every summer I come here and everyone thinks I'm just some weird kid who doesn't belong.
Trust Disney to bring us a metaphorical fish-out-of-water B-plot alongside a literal fish-out-of-water main plot.
Yeah, and the movie's still great regardless, so what's your point here?
E.T. clichéing your Bruce Almighty moon.
Referencing two completely unrelated movies here.
Hey, Luca, I've been looking everywhere for you.
Alberto decided to try everywhere other than the place they have been staying for the last few days to give these two just enough bonding time before the inevitable third-act conflict cliché.
Yeah, so?
Massimo is teaching Alberto the fork spin maneuver for pasta, and as much as I've tried this, it never works for me. It's just like chopsticks. I watch others do it effortlessly, and I just can't make it work.
But I've been able to do that when eating pasta, so it's not impossible to do in the real world.
I want to go to school.
This sentence somehow manages to be the least believable thing in this movie about sea monsters that magically change into humans.
But it does make sense based on what Julia has taught Luca, and he wants to learn more about the human world.
What are those marks on the wall? Tell me what they mean.
I'd give all the sins back if they represent confirmed human kills and we find out that Alberto is actually the famed Monster of Florence serial killer, and then Iron Man, Hulk, and Mysterio show up to solve the case.
I get that you're making a joke here, but those marks on the wall represent how long Alberto's dad has been gone.
Volunteers, huh? You're late. Huh? 1 cup for each kid.
Oh, sure, everyone in this town knows everybody else, when these two need to convenience themselves into the water table of convenience.
But convenient things are part of how a movie works, right?
Sure, this is an inventive solution, but Luca can't really think he has a kipper's chance at breakfast of winning the race in this thing. This outfit would put him so far behind, he'd have to rely on the other competitors being taken out by totally ridiculous Oh, f*** me out loud, that's exactly what's gonna happen, isn't it?
Yeah, so what's the problem here?
How in the name of Aquaman's anus did Alberto manage to see the rain, find an oversized umbrella, and get it to Luca this quickly?
Well, I don't think that's something the movie needed to show, and if it did, it would just end up making the movie longer.
And I'm so proud of you, and I am so mad at you.
Parents.
Well, why would she not feel both things? She's proud of Luca for winning, but is also mad since he ran away from home and worried his parents sick.
Sure is handy that this summer rainfall is persisting just long enough to allow us to witness these lovely scenes of land monsters and sea monsters existing in harmony.
Yeah, so?
Just remember, we are always here.
Skip!
Really? You're skipping over another heartwarming movie moment? Honestly, I'm not really surprised at this point, and that would be my answer to your question, Ark the Cartoon Master.
Ending your film by admitting it was just fine.
Jeremy, that's not the word fine. It's fine, which means end in Italian. And here's the result, everybody. This in total is 258, and the sentence will be Silenzio Bruno. Thank you for watching, everybody, and have a nice day.